Perfect. Welcome everyone to RightTool for QuickBooks Online version 1.014.6. Basically, basically, this is our official August release of RightTool. And I'm joined by my partner in crime here, Mark. Mark, how are you today?
I'm doing well. A little bit tired, but I always like the webinars, so it works out.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of our Super Bowl in a monthly basis. All right, so let's talk about what we're going to discuss today. In the slides, which you almost always forget to do this, but let me copy and paste the slides into the live Zoom because I know a lot of people love their slides. So let's just make sure that a link to the slides is there. We have a link to the last episode we did, which was our July release, where we covered version 13.8. Basically, everything that we've done June, July was released on that episode. And of course, I'm going to strongly recommend that you subscribe to our YouTube channel because we are releasing all of these webinars, recordings into the channel. And then every single new feature that we add, we create a mini video, put that on the channel. And that's essentially the same video that we're going to embed into the settings of RightTool. So it's all like sort of a symbiotic relationship. And we're going to post all the release notes in the release notes website. I have not done August 1 as of the date of this webinar. I do it right after we finish. So today's agenda, we're going to cover the free features, the ones that are available both in free and pro for the August release. And then we're going to talk about the pro features, the ones that require the paid version of RightTool. And then we'll talk about some of the experimental features that we still have there, what we're still doing with experimental features, and also a new experimental feature that we have. And this is actually Q and A, not QBOA. Obviously, I typed QBOA way too much. And basically at 3 o'clock in the morning yesterday, typed the wrong thing. Okay, let's talk about some new links that we added into RightTool. We added the new modernized view of the profit and loss report, and we added the fixed asset manager. So really quick, let's go over those just in case you're not entirely familiar with what those two links are. So what we try to do is we always try to figure out what new things QuickBooks is coming out with that have a new direct URL to get there, and we add it to the RightTool database. So if we go into reports, I'm going to go into reports here really quick. Of course, classic QBO is going to sign me out in the middle of a live webinar. And I also want to take a moment to encourage you, RightTool users, that if you do find a new screen or something new in QuickBooks and you don't seem to be able to find it here in the search or in the list of links, make sure you let us know and we'll add that as soon as we can. So if you go into reports, you're going to notice a new report called Profit and Loss Beta under Custom Report Builder. So if you want to go to a profit and loss beta, where you would just click on that, you would see the new version of the profit and loss. I'm not going to dedicate any time to giving an opinion on whether I like this or how much I like it or whatever. That's a different conversation altogether. But if you wanted to get to this, you basically type modernized view. Basically, everything that we're calling modernized in parentheses, it's going to be basically the direct link. So if you find profit and loss modernized, that will get you there. And if you just type modernized in the search, every single thing that contains the new reporting mechanism will be added there. And we will report it. I also noticed that there's more reports that have modernized versions of them. So we'll be updating that in the next couple of days. The other feature that was added was the fixed asset manager. So if you actually just type fixed and you go to fixed assets, only only available in QuickBooks Online Advanced. Really important thing. Only available in QuickBooks Online Advanced. If you go to fixed assets, it'll take you to the new fixed asset manager, which was released literally days ago. So we added that into RightTool as well to just make sure that we are all caught up. And then Michelle from the live Zoom is saying, hey, what about the new bill pay features? And right now at this moment, if you actually type bill pay or bill payment or something like that, let's see, maybe pay bills. If you type pay bills and you go to pay bills, you're going to go to the standard pay bills URL. I don't know if there's a new URL coming up. I know that QuickBooks is doing away with Melio for the people that are doing online payments, and they're moving on to a built-in bill payment system. I don't have that in my sample files yet, so I don't know if there's a separate URL for that. I promise you, once we know and are aware of those URLs, we'll be adding those. Mark, I don't know if you have been made aware of those new bill payment
Oh,
links. Not yet,
I'm
right?
aware.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there's what the actual implementation is going to be yet, but
Correct. Right. So
I'm aware of it.
as soon as a URL comes up, we'll add those in there. Okay. Let's move on to free features available across all versions, free and pro. And I'll let Mark kind of talk about this one because he received the feedback directly from a user in our Facebook group. And that's really kind of the genesis of this one. So I'll start setting it up on the screen, Mark, and then you could probably start chatting about that.
Yeah, so the void memo automation, for anybody who doesn't know, is a feature we put in to make it so that when you void a transaction, it automatically puts in some text in there that says, oh, this is how much the transaction was worth that was voided for, and here's the email of the person who did it, so that you can kind of have that as an audit log. So what we did is we added this custom void memo automation name as a way to make it so that you can customize what the name of the person is that shows up. That way, if you have like a contractor who you don't necessarily want clients being able to see the name of, or maybe it's just that you prefer to see names instead of the email, then
let's just do I'm gonna just show it on the screen really quick. So I'm gonna pull up let's say an expense transaction. I'll pull up any historical expense transactions. And then because I have turned on voice memo automation, I notice I don't have anything in the custom void memo name. I left that blank. So the void memo automation is not the new feature. The customizing the name is the new feature. So if I go back to my expense transaction and I go to more and then click on void, okay, and you will notice that when you go down all the way down to the memo, and I'll go back and pull that up again. Let's pull up that expense transaction. We're going to see down here that it adds this thing that says void American Airlines. This is basically the original memo name, and then it says by Hector at QBKaccounting.com. So let's say I don't want to see Hector at QBKaccounting.com. I want to see something else. So then I would go back here and put Mark Corum and a happy face, right? Whatever I want to put there. And then I click on save and refresh all tabs. And then I go back into QBO. I pick another transaction that I want to void. Let's pick this one right here. And then I go into more and then click on void. And now you will notice that if I go back into that transaction that has been voided, now it says voided by Mark Corum. So essentially all we did, very simple feature, is we, instead of just grabbing the email from your login, because grabbing the email from your login is the default path to this, it just allows you to put whatever you want. Mark, anything else to add on that?
No, I don't think so. I think that's pretty much covers it.
Okay. So let's go to a really, really big one here, which is the rule creation workflow improvements. So this is we are improving the rule creation workflow improvement feature. And basically we added one more layer to the rule creation workflow improvements. So let's go back into that and we'll open up QuickBooks Online. Let's go into RightTool. And this is going to be right here under improve rule creation workflow. This feature was released last month, really, but we added one more mini rule to that. And this is the one that we added was this last one that says automatically add bank description to bank rule. So this is a bank feed rule, basically means a rule that is created from the bank feed screen, not a rule that's created from the bank rules page. If you want to mess with the rules that have to do with the ones that are created from the rules page, then you would turn on the ones that say rules page. So you look at all the ones that say rules page, and the ones that say rules page, these are the ones that affect a rule created from the rules page. Whereas all the ones that say bank feed rules, which essentially are all these, especially the first three, that is basically for both, these affect all the rules that are created inside the bank feed page. So I'm going to turn them all off and just keep the one new one that we added, which is automatically add bank description to rule name. We'll click on save. We'll go back into QuickBooks Online. Let's go into bank feed and we'll grab any transaction that was downloaded. Let's see. Let's grab my my Amex 1234 here, and let's grab a transaction here at random. And let's say, for example, I want to create a rule straight from bank feeds, again, not from the rules page. And I click on create.
Oh yeah, you turned all the other features off. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm so used to seeing the screen in a very specific way. I was like, wait a minute, is everything loading?
Yes. I only turned on that rule to avoid any confusion. So I mean that setting. So we're gonna go to create rule, and notice that this text that gets automatically added from the bank feed now basically, and you may have noticed a little delay. It basically pastes. It does the paste immediately in the top, so it saves you that step. Now, some people like to leave that blank and then just name the rule whatever they want. We're fine with that. Essentially, what we've done is, hey, could we speed up the process a little bit for you by just copy and pasting that for you? That's essentially all this feature is. Anything to add, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can still edit it afterwards. It just makes it a little bit quicker for you, so you don't have to be like, okay, what's the exact thing I need to name this?
Exactly. So the next free and pro feature is chart of accounts persistent new button, even when you're scrolled down. Okay. All right. So let's see what that looks like. Let's go into the settings here. So we're going to go into, I think it should be QBO user experience. And then down here, it says chart of accounts header with new button, and that is turned on. I'll turn everything off, and just turn that one on so you can see. So chart of accounts header with new button, that is turned on. We're going to click on save and refresh. And now we're going to go into our chart of accounts. And essentially, this was a suggestion from one of the users, which is sometimes when you're scrolled all the way down, you lose the new button. So essentially, what we did is we fixed a new button there under actions. And wherever I am, see how honest I scroll up and down. Notice the new button is up there. If I scroll all the way up, now the new button is it's the new green button is up there. This is the default QuickBooks new button, and then the red new button that we added. So we scroll all the way down. We're here. I don't have to scroll back up. Click on the new button, and it opens up a new bank account creation. Okay, that's it. Anything to add on that, Mark? We haven't created a keyboard shortcut for that yet, right?
We have not created a keyboard shortcut for it. I was busy working on other stuff.
Yeah, all right. So for now, it's just a persistent new button that is right there in the top in the chart of accounts, and it's part of the free feature list. Next one is auto switch reports to classic view. So we've heard a lot of people sort of just not have patience with the new modernized report list. So let's go to reports here for a second. Let's go to our report center. And you will notice that in reports, you're going to have a couple of reports that say new enhanced experience. So any report that says new enhanced experience, and in some cases, when you drill down from like a regular profit and loss, essentially it opens up the new reporting system. And many people are just not used to using it. They don't feel efficient at it. So right now, the feature is off. So I'm just going to showcase to see so you can know contextually. So if I go to sales by location detail and I click on that, it takes me to the new reporting system. Again, the new reporting system has its own merits, and there's tons of things that you should learn about the new reporting system. But most people they don't know what they're looking at. So they just go up here and click on switch to classic view, and they have to do it every single time, which is really annoying. It takes a lot of time. So essentially we've done is we turn on auto switch to classic view, and all we're doing is literally as soon as the button shows up, we press it for you. Sometimes you will notice it, like you will notice it on the screen, and sometimes it will be sort of semi-automatic for you. So let's say, for example, I go to let's open up sales by location detail. Again, I click on that. You might notice it. Yeah, you did notice it, but boom, right automatically it clicked the classic view for you. So we're just saving you a click, automating that process. Once the old report system gets killed completely, don't know how long it will be until that happens, or where people actually like the new modernized view reporting system, then maybe we'll get rid of that feature altogether. Feature will no longer be relevant at that point. But for now, I think a lot of our accounting pros are actually, they're just so used to looking at the classic view that they just can't, they just can't deal with the new reporting system. Yeah. Okay, let's go with the big one. Mark, are you ready? Drum roll. Okay, this is the one that, and surprisingly, I think Mark will probably tell you, it ended up being a fairly easy, say compared to a lot of features, fairly easy to implement, wasn't it? The
Yeah.
Google Memo.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't as hard as it was we thought it was going to be, for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Okay, so let's make sure we turn that on. So that's going to be under error prevention, and it's kind of interesting that we picked to put it there. It's just don't really know where else it fits. Okay, yeah. So
This is one of those things where, what happens is we try to make it so these pages don't get too long. So we have to figure out a way to put things in places where it doesn't make the screen take up the entire.
Exactly. Yeah. So Google Memo link in bank feeds. I'm going to save that. And then we're going to go into bank feeds. We also heard some feedback, and I'm trying to figure this out, and we'll work on this probably for September, that a lot of people are saying that when you go into banking, it defaults to a random default bank account, and it doesn't go back to the bank account that you were working on previously. Not sure what the actual fix for that is. Like we're still looking into that. So I have to actually go back and find the account that I was demoing. So that's something kind of annoying that we're looking into. How can we possibly fix it? A lot of people also are reporting that when they go into bank feeds, that this thing doesn't persist at 300, that it defaults back to 50 or 100 or 150. So we're also trying to figure out, can we figure out a way to have it forcefully go to 300 every single time? And we toyed with the idea of doing more than 300, but it just causes a bit of a mess. So we're trying to figure that out too. And a lot of people are reporting that the turn on grouping turns on automatically as well, even when you don't turn it off. So it sort of persists. So we're also looking into, okay, are these things like it feels like it was fixed, and then Intuit did something strange with banking, and then it's like some of these settings like don't seem to persist correctly. So we're going to look into all that. We see that in the feedback, and I've gotten some. I've noticed that in my own testing file that happens as well. Anyway, going back to the Google Memo link in bank feeds. So essentially, we're looking at a transaction in QuickBooks. Maybe we know what it is. Maybe we don't know what it is. What do we typically do? Well, normally we grab something from the memo here and copy it, and then maybe open a new tab, and then in Google paste it. Okay, that's sort of like the most common thing that people do. Press enter, and then maybe by reading whatever they read on the screen, they'll determine what it is. Some of the more savvy people know that there's actually a built-in sort of mechanism inside Google Chrome where I can just copy any text, right-click, and then click on search Google for this. I mean, it's pretty quick, right-click and searching. It's just that the right-click menu is so long that it takes you like an extra second to find that setting. So what we've done essentially is, well, two things. One, we saved you a click. So instead of having to select it, right click and Google search, which is a great feature, by the way, that's 3 clicks, right? Am I correct? Yeah, 3 clicks. You can just come in here and click on Google Memo. So if you click on Google Memo, get ready, drum roll, click on Google Memo. It opens up a sort of like a pop-up window. It's still a browser window. Somehow, sort of by accident, it doesn't have the navigation controls. So that's actually good. So it makes actually the window a little bit bigger. We also made it approximately half the screen, and we also made it pop up on the right side. So essentially, you could be semi-triangulating, like I'm looking at the stuff on the left side, then I'm looking at the stuff on the right side. I could scroll up and down here, and it sort of doesn't affect my vision. We might, we'll tweak this. We'll get some feedback in terms of the best possible presentation for this, but we think that so far this is pretty neat. So we can just X out of that. And Mark, you want to say something?
I was just going to say, it's also very possible that you don't have the update yet. We literally put this out like at 3 a.m. So It's very possible your browser has not updated yet. It will eventually.
Let's go through that. If you want to do a manual update, all you have to do is click on, you can click on the 3 little buttons here in Chrome. You can go into extensions, and then you can click on manage extensions. And then once you go into manage extensions, you're going to find the latest version of RightTool. Actually, let me turn this one off. the latest version of RightTool or your version of RightTool should be in here. So you can click on up here where it says update, or you can click on details and you can look at it, be staring at it, and you can click update. In either case, you'll be able to manually update, and you should be in version 14.6. Or if you watch this later on in the future, it might be a newer 4.7.8 if we add any tweaks. If you don't see the update button, which happens sometimes, the update button is gone. You might have to go on the right hand side and turn on developer mode. So then you can click update and force that update for you. So like, yes, we literally last night updated 14.6. And if you're not seeing that yet, you don't need an update. Just update, close your browser, open it back up. I think you should be fine. And again, we need to get feedback from you guys in terms of how these things work, and anything not working too well, we will tweak. Something else that we added to that same feature is the ability to also do selective Google Memo. So for example, if you have here altered state store 235, if I Google the memo, we will
have to highlight inside the memo box, by the way.
Right. Same. But if I just click on it, if I just click on it, if I just click on it without selecting anything, it will do a search. And if I want it to be more selective, like let's say I just want the alter state, for example, and I don't want to see store number 235, might be a something you may want to do. You can just select specifically what you want. Then you click on Google Memo, and then notice that the actual part that was searched was only what was selected. So I find that to be sort of the secondary, really powerful piece about this, because many people will tell me, Hector, the problem is I get so many random weird characters in that memo, in that downloaded transaction, and I know how to discern, what I don't want. So I could just select the group of stuff that I want. Anything to add on that, Mark?
No, I think you covered it well.
Okay, awesome. Well, it was my idea.
One thing I will say is that if there is, it's a new feature. If there is anything that goes weird, I saw one person say it's popping up blank for them, and somebody said that it's popping more on the left side of the screen than the right. Just message me. I'm putting my email inside of the chat real quick. It's mark@monkbee.com. If you're ever having an issue with it, send me a message, and maybe we'll get on a call and look at it real quick to see if there's something that's going funky.
So ideally we want it to be about half the screen, and we want it to be on the right side. Yeah. It might be possible that we can't always control that, because there might be something in your Mac or in your PC that's holding that up. But for the most part, I think it should work. As an alternative, if people are getting these weird pop-ups that are not working correctly, we could always bring the original design in, which is just opening a new tab with it, which it was also a good idea, but I think that pop-up is actually better than the new tab. So that would be the alternative. If people report issues with the pop-up, then we'll do a tab. And Marco should have that code already ready to go. Okay, let's talk about a graduated. Do you have any graduation music we can put, Mark, in the background? God. Yeah, I don't remember that. So we graduated a feature that was in experimental, and we moved it to Accounting Pro. So scripts, and you have to go back and watch those videos in terms of how that works. Script is like the nerdiest tool inside RightTool, which Mark literally designed just for me, because I've been playing with ChatGPT and asking ChatGPT to build some code for me.
I mean, I wasn't going to say it out loud that it was just for you, but
yeah. And then so when I play with ChatGPT, to build code. I load it as a shortcut in script, so it allows me to quickly test something. And Mark will admit that this Google search tool was partly inspired by a piece of code that I built with ChatGPT. It was originally a script. So anyway, congratulations, scripts. You can now be a regular feature in Accounting Pro. All right, let's talk about the features available in Pro. First, we added the ability to append or prepend a memo in the batch edit in register. Such a niche thing, right? But I'm gonna, Mark, I'll let you start talking about that, but I'll start setting it up for you.
So we're talking about the batch edit and register?
Yeah, batch edit and register, append memo.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, what this is we had some feedback where we had the ability to, when you're batch editing things in the register, you had the ability to change the memo, or you had the ability to, and I think we added prepend to memo, if I'm correct in saying so. Yeah.
Prepend and append. Yeah.
Yeah. So people were like, I don't want to, sorry, I want to just replace the memo. I want to also be able to put it at the beginning or the end. We already had it, so you could append, but we added the ability to prepend as well, if that's something you wanted to do.
Right. Let's demo that maybe with a specific type of transaction. Let's see if we do maybe expenses. It's probably easiest with an expense transaction. So let's apply that. We have any, okay, there we go. So let's say I wanted to add some, okay, so these don't have, they have memos. Yeah, these have memos in them. Okay. So let's say I wanted to batch edit something and then add a prepending memo is a good example, right? So I'm going to go to batch. I'm going to select, let's say this 4 transactions. I'm going to batch edit them. And then in this process of batch edit, I'm going to change, let's say, the payee, okay? But also I want to prepend to the memo some note about the payee that I'm changing. So I'm going to go to close, and then notice that it highlights the 2 fields that we can batch edit. Let's say we're going to change this from Apple Card, whatever, to, let's say, to Ali Meat or Ale Meat. And then on the memo, I'm going to put modified by Hector 080923. Okay, and I put 3 exclamation marks or whatever. Okay, so this is the memo that I'm essentially prepending, and then here's the payee that I'm changing. So that's this is not a new feature. Just being able to prepend the memo specifically is the new feature. So I click on confirm batch, and then I click OK, and then essentially in all 4 of those transactions, the payee is being changed, but also I'm able to prepend the specific memo I want to add. So really, it's that the ability to prepend or append to the memo rather than replacing the whole memo. You got all 3 options now. It's essentially what the improvement to batch edit is. Mark, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I just hope people like it.
Okay, all right. Okay, next one is we created a new setting category. So like our goal for the next couple of months is to start thinking what is the role of AI and ChatGPT interacting with QuickBooks Online. We have a couple of ideas. Believe it or not, it's a little bit challenging to implement just because there's so many moving parts. So essentially, I'm going to go back into the settings here. So this is a pro feature. We now created a category by itself called AI Pro Beta. So anything that we add specifically related to ChatGPT or GPT, OpenAI, or any other AI type of tools, they will be in there. So that way, you know exactly they're just in one place. And they probably will be there for a while, and they'll probably be beta for a very long time, right? Because I think even ChatGPT calls itself a beta, and there's always a beta, I guess. So we have 2 things. We have the report analysis AI, and we put in there ChatGPT 3.5 to just in case you understand the difference between 3.5 and 4, and you know that the report analysis, it's always using 3.5, and this is using our API key, so RightTool's API key. So we are paying for the AI functionality of that, and our tool only our own API can only use ChatGPT 3.5, and this is the one that works inside of a report that adds a note to the report analysis. This is not new. We just changed the location of it to this new AI Pro. The new this feature is new. The one we're going to showcase is called Bank Categorization AI. And Mark, I'll let you explain it briefly before I go into demo mode. Like, what's Bank Categorization AI from your perspective?
Yeah, so essentially, if you've ever had to Google, in the same vein as when we put Google Memo in here, we have made it so that you can, if you want to, use AI to kind of be like, okay, what is this potentially, what is this thing that we're spending money on, right? It's not used to be in a replacement for asking a client what's going on. It's more to be like, okay, I know generally what's going on, but I need a little bit of assistance from AI. At least that's, in my opinion, what it's kind of best for. But yeah, I know that you have much more plans for it than I do.
Yeah, I think we're going to go really far with this. But we're going to start with just simply turning on Bank Categorization AI. We're not going to skip custom bank text. We'll explain what that is. We're not going to add a custom prompt. Not yet. We'll discuss that. We're not going to add a comparison to the current category. I said not yet. We'll discuss that. And we're not going to change the ChatGPT 4 API key which I mean, we'll do it on the webinar to show you, but for now, we're going to skip that just to kind of show you the simple, plain vanilla ChatGPT 3.5 enabled bank categorization AI. So we're going to go back into bank feeds. Okay. And let's go into a specific transaction. Okay. So I'm going to go into a particular bank account. Okay. And then I'm going to ask ChatGPT what this weird thing is in here. So yes, I can do the Google Memo. So if I go Google Memo, I get a bunch of stuff. This happens to be in Germany. So I really have no idea what I'm looking at when I do a regular Google. So actually a really great example for this. So let's turn on the feature. Let's save and refresh. We'll go back into banking here. And again, this really super annoying thing happens where it kicks me out of the last bank that I was in. And I got to go back into that. Question, and the people watching live, does this happen to you where you reset back into banking and it sends you back to a random account? Or is it like just me? Yeah, so like I want to just double check that it's not like my file is weird for some reason. And does it also happen to you that you turned off grouping and then it sort of turns grouping back on even if you didn't want to? Are you having this issue as well? Okay, that's a lot of yeses, Mark.
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure that out.
Yeah, that's a lot of yeses. Okay, anyway, so we have the option to Google Memo, and I guess that's part of the free feature. And now we have this thing called GPT Suggest. And to be fair, we showcased this feature we were testing a couple of months ago, but we kind of pulled it out so we can do some more testing. And now it's officially it's officially a released feature. So we're going to click on GPT Suggest, and the first thing that QBO does and RightTool does is, hey, we're sending information to ChatGPT. So if you wanted to hide anything from here, like for example, I know that some people's credit cards contains their full name, and maybe you want to remove the name of the credit card user because you don't want to send it to ChatGPT or whatever, you can do that. So essentially, it's giving you a preview of what's about to be sent to ChatGPT prior to it being sent. So then we're going to click on Ask ChatGPT. And it takes about 10 seconds or so. It goes, queries ChatGPT, and then based on the prompt we gave it a very specific prompt. We asked, hey, what is this? Okay, and then this thing is saying that this vendor is possibly office supplies. Now, this is not checking in your chart of accounts. This is just giving a random suggestion. And then it says, explains why it thinks it's that. And then it gives a little disclaimer that says, however, if this is personal, this should be a personal expense. Now, is this the right thing? No, actually, maybe. I don't know. I actually think that's actually parking. If I remember correctly, that was like maybe like €6 in parking that I paid somewhere in Germany in my summer vacation. But this gives a suggestion to its base of the best of its abilities. Again, it might just be inaccurate. We can't help what ChatGPT gives us. Now, we're going to go a little bit deeper into this just to make sure that we understand the power of this, because again, nothing is going to be like automatically accurate 100% of the time. It's really important for you to think about that. We have the option to append to memo, or we can exit out. So for example, let's say you wanted to take this information that ChatGPT gave you and append it to memo. Look how cool this is. We click append to memo. And then we can X out of that. And then this exact same information that was gathered from ChatGPT now becomes the memo of the transaction. So then if you go in here and you type office expenses or office supplies or whatever, then you have sort of your justification in like on what ChatGPT said. Now, again, it's probably inaccurate. Okay, fine. It's a different issue altogether. We can discuss that later. Okay. And then you would click on add, and then you would do that after. Okay, so let me just, I'm gonna just click on another transaction, come back in here. I'm just gonna sort of reset this whole thing. Now, some of the things that we can modify is we can actually now skip that custom bank text. So if I turn this on, skip a custom bank text, and I save that, and just recall that when I went into this bank feeds here, actually, let me go back to that. One of the most annoying things in the world is having to go back into those accounts like that.
So it's not just me being crazy. This is something that's more of a recent thing, because I For honest to God, like I got on a call with somebody about this specific thing where the bank feed is just refreshing weird. And I've noticed it ever since. And I can't tell if it's because of the fact that it's always been there or if I just got on the call and it.
No, yeah, I think it's a combination between the red Volkswagen effect that now you notice it, and then they broke something. QuickBooks broke something in their system somewhere that it's happening quite a bit. Anyway, so if you remember when we first did ChatGPT Suggest, you get this little pop-up asking you are you sure you want to modify the text, or are you sure this text will send? If I just do it now, it skips that pop-up. So essentially that's all it is. It's just skips that pop-up for you. So now we're giving you the flexibility in terms of what you want to do with it. Okay. Now notice in this case, it tried again office supplies expense. This time maybe it didn't catch the payee. So you could also get different answers different times you click. I'm going to try one more time and see if I get a different answer. So again, I'm just kind of showing you we're building this tool to interact with GPT, but we don't really control the accuracy of GPT. Look at this. Now it thinks is utilities expense. So maybe it's just going through sort of random suggestions.
It's throwing a dart at the dartboard.
It's just throwing a dart to see what happens. Again, it's good illustration of two things. One, how good Mark and I are putting together something that can connect to ChatGPT, but also how bad ChatGPT it is to like literally replace an accountant. So so this is the reality that we're living on right now as we speak. Now I do want to
for just a second, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead. So I do want to show you something. So I'm going to go into ChatGPT. Actually, I'm going to go into my API account. And if you happen to be sort of super nerds like us and you have your own API account with ChatGPT, which you can do that, I can create my own API key. So I'm going to create my own API key. I'm going to click on create new secret key. Then I'm going to call this RT test 080923. Go to create secret key. I'm going to copy that. And now I build my own API key. So now I can connect my API backend to ChatGPT to the RightTool interactivity with ChatGPT for the purposes of using the better version of ChatGPT, which is ChatGPT 4. So I can paste my own API key in here, and then I can click on Enable GPT-4 if your API account allows it, which mine does. And now, because I'm using ChatGPT 4, again, we're getting really nerdy and geeky about the differences between ChatGPT 3, 4, 5, and 4. The information is going to be better. It's just like ChatGPT 4, it's better, period. Unfortunately, it's not, first of all, we don't have ChatGPT 4 available for RightTool to use in the API. And secondly, it would be possibly cost prohibitive for us to include ChatGPT 4 capabilities if you actually sit there and do this with like 100 or 200 transactions, because ChatGPT sort of charges per transaction. So now that we're using ChatGPT 4, now we're going to see, can this possibly give me a better answer, a better suggestion? So I'm going to click on GPT Suggest, and let's see what this does. So now keep in mind, this is using GPT 4 because I put my own API key in there, and I get charged like fractions of cents for every transaction. And now it's maybe better, maybe not. Now it says miscellaneous expense.
To be fair, it's kind of slightly better. I mean, at least it's telling you it doesn't know. That's
right. Right. I'm going to do one more. And this is, again, this is an obscure one. This is some random thing parking in Germany, right? So totally very obscure. We're being kind of unfair to ChatGPT in this case. And maybe we'll go back and look at that transaction later on after we customize a prompt. But let's look at this one that is actually not as random. And I'll tell you, like, if you look at this, if you're not from Miami, like, okay, you're not from Miami, do you know what this is? 7 FTX Arena 7000 Miami, Florida. Do you know exactly what this is? You're not from Miami. Put it in the chat. Let's see if anybody can guess this without being from Miami, if anybody knows what this is. So we're asking the humans. So some people say Sam Bankman. Some people are saying no. Some people say something in Miami. Okay, the sports stadium. Okay, parking. Okay, good. So like these are all pretty good answers. This is the Miami. This is the sports stadium for the Miami Arena where the Miami Heat play, which used to be called FTX. Now it's called Kesaya Center. Okay. Now, if you're a bookkeeper working with a random customer in a random place in the US, would you even know? Or okay. So if I go to Google Memo okay, I actually get a good answer. So this is a beautiful thing about the Google Memo. We still think Google Memo is the old reliable. I think Google Memo is probably going to be used for the most of the cases. But again, if you are like me and like Mark, you're super nerdy, you're still going to want to see what ChatGPT has got to say. So let's say what ChatGPT 4 has got to say about this, where I don't have to Google, and let's see if I can now triangulate information from Google, and it nailed it, right? It said entertainment expense, payee, FTX Arena. It's a venue that hosts various entertainment activities, right? So that's actually accurate. So notice that it does do a pretty good job, and it did that without me having to go to Google and figure that out. So kind of showing you both sides of the coin here. Now, another really cool thing about this is people tell me, hey, this is kind of wordy, okay? This is like kind of wordy. Like I'm a bookkeeper, I'm an accountant. I don't need that many things. I don't need a disclaimer letting me know if this is personal. Do it for personal expenses. I totally get that. So I can build my own custom prompt. So let's go back and do that. We're gonna go back into the settings, and note you can build your own custom prompt even if you don't use your own API key. The own API key situation is only solely if you want to use your own key and pay for ChatGPT 4.0 instead of 3.5. For the time being, if you don't turn on ChatGPT 4, or if you don't put your key, it will use our key. So let's go through the custom categorization. So let's say I want to say, I am going to give you, okay, so I'm writing my own prompt. Okay, let's just be clear about this. So if you don't put anything here, it would be the prompt that we gave it, which we're not making public yet. But if you put your own prompt, say I'm going to give you a transaction from my credit card with an amount. I want you to give me the best possible guess for payee and expense category. Okay, now this is where it's going to get really fun. And obviously, I never won any spelling contest when I was a kid. So, best expense category. And then I'm going to say, use this as an example. So, I'm going to do, let's do, what can we do? Let's do Adobe 999. Okay. So let's say this is the stuff that's coming from the bank. So let's say this is bank info. And then this is what we're coming from the bank. And then we're going to put here vendor. We're going to put Adobe Inc. So it's the best thing to do is to actually model it, tell it what you want it to look like. Okay. And then we go to vendor. We're going to go category. And then we put software. And I guess software is fine. Software. And then that's it. That's like essentially that's really all I wanted to give me. Done. That's all I wanted to give me. So then I'm going to click on save and refresh the tabs. And then I'm going to go back into banking, and then we'll go to any transaction. Okay. And again, if you don't want to do a custom prompt, which is totally fine, you can just leave it blank and it will override back to our prompt. So then I'm going to click on ChatGPT Suggest. And again, it's going to use an entirely different prompting mechanism. And notice it just made it a lot simpler. So if you really want to start experimenting with prompts, we've given you the tools for that. So if you're like, you've been inspired by ChatGPT and you're like, you know what, I really want to get to the point where I find the perfect prompt that gives me the perfect categorization. There it is. I want to add one more thing, which is actually really, really neat, is if QuickBooks suggests something, I can actually have it compared to whatever QuickBooks suggested. Okay, so I can come in here and add a comparison to the current category. I'm going to turn that on, and then I can do a custom prompt for that. So I can say, based on the ChatGPT category suggestion, how
whenever you have a
Is
Web
that
or whenever
from?
you have the video on, it's always harder to type for some reason. Don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I'm just horrible. Okay, so I have a category suggested by QuickBooks. Okay. So essentially, I'm saying, hey, based on the ChatGPT category suggestion, how far is that from, and I put into quotes or brackets, CAT, which is basically a code we use for using the current category that's in QBO now. So I'm basically telling it, I'm creating a custom sort of follow-up ChatGPT chat with us. So I mean, like, again, we're super meta at this point. Like if you're not in love with ChatGPT, this stuff is like boring you to death. I get it. Okay, this is only exciting for people that like are fascinated by ChatGPT and they're seeing the potential of what this could mean, for the future of accounting. And we're bringing you in this journey together with us. So that's why we're creating the custom prompting tool, because one of you guys or several of you guys are going to give us the most amazing prompt and follow-up prompts, and then we can build in and make it the default prompt that RightTool uses. We're all like improving, we're moving the profession forward with AI as together with, and I think RightTool is a good way to get you started with that front. Okay, let's give this a shot. So I'm going to click right there on GPT suggest, and remember, this time around I'm going to get two pieces of information. I'm going to get the custom prompt for the original payee and suggestion, and then I'm going to get a comparison between what QuickBooks offered and what GPT is offering. So GPT is saying this FTX arena and this should be entertainment. And then it says ChatGPT category suggestion entertainment is quite different from the QuickBooks suggested category personal expenses, as it specifically refers to an event or activity related or leisure to enjoyment, while personal expenses is a broader category to include various types of individual expenditure. So maybe you like that answer, maybe you don't. Again, we're giving you the tools to figure it out. Like basically, RightTool users are going to come back to us with a stroke of genius, and they're going to give us the best combination between the original prompt and the comparison prompt. So we're very excited about that. So I think we might have lost the audience at this point.
Well, we still got people.
Okay. Let's take a quick 1 minute break here in the chat. So far, has any of these changes, add-ons, new features really jumped at you? Is there anything in particular that you're saying immediately, this is going to be really, really helpful? Okay, yeah, the Google.
Yeah, I know that when we were demoing it, a lot of people like the Google memo, so that is definitely interesting.
Yeah, the Google. Yeah, we had a pretty good idea that Google was going to be the most popular one, and we made it a free feature, not a paid feature. That was a executive decision we made, because we kind of, the logic was, hey, you can really right click and Google anyway, so it's like not even like an extra real feature. And then obviously the ChatGPT would be the paid one. Okay, we got two more to show. I promise you the next two are going to be, they're not as tricky, like they're not potentially buggy, but the next two are going to be really, really interesting. We're going to have search amount in the reconcile screen. Okay, so what exactly does that mean? Let's go reconcile. And let's pick an account here to reconcile. And type here Amex. And we'll resume the reconciliation. Okay. And notice that there's a box up here that says find next amount. And what I'll do is, also to sort of avoid confusion, I'm just going to turn on that one feature, and that's it. So I'm only going to turn on search for amount. That way, that's the only sort of RightTool feature that we're seeing here. So one of the things that we kind of hate about reconcile window is, if I wanted to search a specific transaction, so let's say I wanted to search for 213.99, and I do a Control F and I put 213.99. It's kind of a hit and miss. Sometimes you'll find it, sometimes it won't. So like in this particular case, it did it because I scrolled down prior. I'm going to refresh just to show you something. So I'm going to refresh back. So before scrolling down, if I do a Control F and search it, it doesn't find it. So there's a little bit of a challenge with the reconcile window, where the specific details, the specific numbers that are there, you need to scroll through them so it kind of load it into the browser cache, and then you can you can search. Most people are not gonna even after watching this webinar, all 200 of you are just not gonna remember that. Like we don't think in those terms. So what we did is we did a built-in search tool that if you put the dollar amount here and go to find amount, it does the scrolling for you. It finds the transaction and it highlights it. So it does the search for you, finds the transaction, and it highlights it. It highlights it for about 2 seconds and then it goes away. We're gonna have to decide whether we wanted to highlight it for longer than 2 seconds. That might be something else we can discuss. The other really cool thing about this is being able to find something with sort of a wildcard search. So I want to find everything that ends in 99 cents. I would do star 0.99, whoops, 0.99, go to find amount, and then I'll find each transaction that ends in 0.99, okay? And it scrolls you to it, and it goes straight to it, okay? And you could also go the other way. So let's say I want to do anything that's $10 and any cent. So I put 10 point star, okay, and then I go to find, and I'll find anything that's 10 point something, okay, and I'll keep toggling through it as you can find them. We need to experiment with sort of in between poundage. In between wildcard, like maybe 1 pound, 2 point something. What does that do? We still haven't gotten there yet. It's kind of complex to do this. And we're also debating on whether or not, and then maybe you guys can tell me what you think. And by the way, that's only dollar amounts, no text. Okay, we're only doing an amount text, not a text search. So if you want to do a text search, you use the traditional QuickBooks Online filtering system where you put here, let's say, Amazon, and then press find, and then you will filter all the Amazon transactions. But what's really cool is you can now combine them. So you can use the built-in filtering, only look for Amazon, and then only within the context of the Amazon ones, then you can do a star 0.99 search to see if there's any, and only within the filter transactions. So we think that combination of being able to do a specific amount in there and then in the filter, that could work. And some people are asking, what about an in-between search or a more than or a less than? It doesn't work in our search filter. We're going to have to discuss the merits of that. But you can also use the built-in feature. So for example, if I'm looking for anything under $100 and I apply, and then within the universe over $100, then I want to find anything that's 29 something. So I put 29 period star and then find next, and I'll find those. So we think that this combination of the built-in filtering system that can do more than, that can do less than, that can do memo, plus our dollar amount search and the potential wildcarding, that combination is going to be crucial. And I have a feeling that a lot of you guys are going to come back to us and go, holy crap, this would have taken me forever to find, and somehow this combination of things help me find it. The ultimate would be, and this is very difficult to do, and we've had in this suggestion, I had this idea from the inception of RightTool, is, hey, could I take this difference and then have it, search within, the open transactions? What combination would get me to the difference? That we haven't figured out how to do something like that. That would be incredible, I think. But
this
for
is
now,
actually, I told Hector this, which is, this is really a stepping stone feature to, we hope we can come up with ideas for more things we can use this kind of similar code for, where we find the amount inside. So maybe in the future we can help find that difference. It's going to be a thing. It's going to require a little bit of work, but we're hoping that we can get that figured out.
Yeah, correct. Right. I mean,
And also, Anita asked, can this find anything outside the statement ending date? It will only search for anything that can be found inside of the filtering. Now, that doesn't mean, that means that if there's something that does not show currently on the page, like if you needed to scroll to the very bottom, it would find it, but it will only find it if it fits in the parameters of what QuickBooks will give
what's been filtered. Right. So we it's an amount search after you've done your filtering. So if you want something outside of the statement date, you literally have to click on that X. Or if you only want to see transactions that are cleared or transactions that are not cleared in your search, you can just filter the ones that are not cleared, and then you can do your search within the context of the ones that are not cleared. Now, one thing that we're thinking about is, and we'll let me know, is if I don't click on the cleared filter, would it be useful for this to only search uncleared transactions? So to do this and then put a little checkbox that says uncleared only, and then it would only find the ones that are uncleared, and it wouldn't find the ones that are cleared. So would that be useful? Like, we just want to be careful with adding just too many components to this and making it confusing. Or is the filtering system cleared or not cleared good enough? So we'll get some feedback from you guys about that. Okay, so that's that feature. And somebody says, can you use this inside of the check register? So that would be interesting. How would this be useful? We do have inside the check register, I don't know if this is kind of it was like a sleeper feature that we added. We brought a memo filter and reference filter up in the register. So that's already in there. So if I wanted to put, I don't know, Amazon or something like that, that's not there. But let's look at maybe the Amex account. Okay, and then in here, I want to do just Amazon, and then press a filter. It'll filter them out. So there's a built-in filtering system for memos, but not dollar amounts. If I put here $10 and then do a search, it won't work because it's searching within a dollar amount. So if you want to find a search in a filter, you would use then the traditional filtering system that QuickBooks already has. We figured that, why would we do that if there's already a specific dollar amount filter? But we could consider potentially adding, find next feature. We'll have to hear the different use cases for that. Okay. All right. And then to try to wrap it up within the hour, let's see how quickly we can get to this one.
We have that's already too late for within the hour, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, within the hour and a half, I guess. Okay, so we have reclassify transactions page, new filter. This one's cool. This is interesting. I think you're going to like this one. So when you go to reclassify, let's go to the reclassify page. One of the issues that we have with reclassify at the moment, and let me just go and take a look at a couple of years worth of transactions here. So one of the issues that we have is that the current limitation, it's a maximum of 300 transactions that you can see. So you can only do reclassifying within the universe of 300 transactions. If I select all of them, notice that in this case, let's do more years. Let's see if there's more, just so we can see more transactions here. So this is still, let me see what can we do here? Let's do maybe uncategorized. Let's just select all. There's 71. Well, I'm maybe not picking a category that has more than 300, but if you go into any
this particular sample file is not great for picking a thing that has more than 300 transactions.
Okay, this is a good one right here. Okay, so right here, if I select all, see how that's limited to 300. Okay, that's because this is the hard limit that QuickBooks gives me. So if I go up here to where it says show 999 transactions, and I know that's kind of awkward, that's just because the physical capabilities of overriding the current reclassify system is locked at 999. So if I click on show 999, it will do a quick refresh, and then it will basically paginate. Is that paginate? And then just bring in more transactions up to 999. So if I click on select all, you will never see more than 999 transactions. So in this case, the universe of transactions is 659. So this is actually much more useful for reclassifying. So now let's say I want to reclassify anything that has the word, let's say air or airlines, something like that. So I'm going to type air and then hit tab or just wait. And then it only shows me the transactions that have air in the memo. If I put, let's say Amazon, okay, and then it will only show me the transactions that have Amazon in it. And because of the shift click capabilities, we can hold the shift click, hold the shift click down, select the transaction we want, and then click on shift click, and then it'll automatically batch the clicking for you. Depending on how many it is, it might take a little longer, but the shift clicking. So essentially what we're doing is, hey, we have a whole bunch of transactions limited to particular text in the memo, then do the shift click, which is taking a little longer than usual. But
the more transactions that are in here, the slower the shift click goes. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind when you're balancing that out.
Right. It's still faster than finding them automatically. And the reason for this is because we did the show 999. If you don't do the show 999, you keep it at the 300. The shift click is actually, would say, takes a couple of seconds. So anyway, once you're done shift clicking, then you click on reclassify, and you can just reclassify those that you've filtered with a specific memo. The other thing worth mentioning is we can also limit it to a particular dollar amount. So let's say I only want to look at transactions between 100 and 200. Okay, so we do between 100 and 200. Okay, and then essentially I'm only seeing transactions between 100 and 200. And then when I do the clicking and the shift clicking or whatever I want to do, then I just select those and then I can just reclassify those. So that's the really the neat thing about this system. Let's just do between 10 and 12. Let's see if we.
And one thing you might want to do is you might want to click the X first real quick and just unclick everything first, just to like unselect everything first, because that is the part we probably need to work on.
Yeah, select everything. So let's do between 10 and 12.
If I could figure out how exactly QuickBooks is going through and selecting everything when it presses that one checkbox at the top, I would love to fix it that way. But until that time, this is what we're dealing with.
Exactly. So I'm looking for transactions between 10 and 12. Hold the first one, hold the shift, click on the last one, let everything get selected. Then I could just reclassify those. I think this particular addition to the reclassify tool is going to be really powerful. We'd love to know what your thoughts about that is. Okay. We still have two features that we showcased last month in experimental, which is the bulk edit source bank account. We're still waiting to see feedback on that. And then batch change customer project lines inside expense transactions. These two are still considered experimental. Okay. So the next one is called transaction reversals and void bills and deposits. Okay, I know it's a mouthful, and it was kind of built sort of last minute. It was all built together. So let's go through those. So let's go into Experiments Pro and let's turn on reversing transaction options. That's what it's called.
I changed that name. That's my bad.
Yeah, I think transaction reversals. Yeah. So this is actually a pretty interesting one. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to disable everything else to just not have anything else red on the screens and make sure we don't confuse this feature with anything else. So just going to turn everything else off here, just so we can just highlight the transaction reversal. Okay, good. Okay, so reversing transaction options. Let's save and refresh. Let's open up a transaction that we want to quote unquote reverse. So let's say we're going to reverse an invoice. And by reverse, we mean not delete, not void. It means do the inverse of that transaction in the future. So let's say we have an invoice up here. And I'm going to pull any invoice that we have here. Let's say we're going to pull this particular invoice. And let's say this invoice is back from 2021. It's unpaid. And we have a whole bunch of like information in this invoice. We have particular items, we have descriptions, we have quantities, we have rates, we have amounts, we have classes. Doing a journal entry to reverse this would just be a lot of work and probably inaccurate. So the perfect opposite, the yin to the yang of this invoice would be a credit memo with the exact number of lines. So we're going to click on more. And now you're going to see two new options. One says copy to credit and then copy to refund. This is the reverse transaction option. So we can do a refund receipt with this, which is technically not the perfect opposite to this, but we added it anyway, whatever. But the refund would be the perfect opposite to a sales receipt. But if you want to do a credit memo, we click here, it says copy to credit. And essentially a new transaction gets created, which is a credit memo, and then all the information gets copied as exact copy of that transaction in sort of its opposite state. Then you can put, let's say, today's date or whatever. And if you don't have it set up to automatically apply credits, then after you save that credit memo, then you have to go into the invoice and apply that credit, and then basically close the loop on that transaction. That perfectly.
I was going to say, there is one thing I want to put out there, which is the only thing it does not pull is tags. I tried.
Yeah, can't pull the tags. Right.
But tags is the one thing it could not. It was just not working with me on it.
Tags and custom fields are just not going to be as friendly as date, item, amount, description. But they're really important piece. Okay. What about sales tax? I haven't tested sales tax. I don't want to give you an answer. I guess I would have to test sales tax in two types of files, the one with the old sales tax system, with the new sales tax system. So for now, I can't promise sales tax. I would definitely love to hear your feedback on that. Also, the perfect opposite to a bill would be what? A bill credit, right? So I'm going to grab a bill. And let's say I have this bill here. I'm going to add more lines here just for the heck of it here. So 275, and we'll put here this.
I do know it copies over the tax checkbox. I just don't know if it actually copies over the tax.
Yeah, the tax
information
the tax line
correctly. So
yeah,
that is something to keep an eye on. If you have any feedback, that is part of the reason we put it in Experimental Pro, is to make it so that happens.
It's a lot to test. It's a lot to test.
One thing as well is that since you save this page, if you press the more button to go to voiding this, it might, it is showing up. Okay, or not void, sorry, copy to credit.
So we'll get to void in a second. Void's another part of this feature. But when we go to more and we go to copy to credit, this is now going to create a vendor credit, which is the exact opposite of a bill. So we go to copy to credit, it creates a vendor credit, and then it copies all the transactions with the lines with the class. This is a feature that should be built into QBO. Like there's a third-party app should not be doing this. This is like sort of like really basic stuff. Reversing a transaction, in my opinion, it should be sort of the real basics for it. And sometimes you won't see the dollar amount appear really quick. Just click on anything for it to refresh. Okay, and then we save and close. And then again, if you don't have your Quick QBO designed to automatically apply, then you have to go back and apply that. Okay, the tricky ones, and probably the reason why these are still going to be in experimental, is because the bill credit, invoice, credit memo, those were relatively easy. The truly confusing ones are going to be like, okay, a check, an expense, a credit card, a deposit. How do you reverse those? We do have something happening, and then we'll basically allow you to test it and let us know. But for example, if you have this check that you wanted to reverse, then when you go to more, the reversal of a check would essentially be a deposit. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah. So we go to copy to deposit, and essentially you're going to see, and I'll scroll down, you're going to see the line items of the deposit copy over. Keep in mind that not everything is going to be perfect. So we're still sort of working on the kinks of that. Okay, like for example, see that the account wasn't brought in automatically here. So we're still working through the check, the deposits, and the expenses. And we might pull it completely if we need to, because the original intent was just to do invoices and bills and its reversal. But I know that, checks and deposits and expenses could have,
deposits are really the one that are kind of the weird out in left field ones. By the way, somebody asked about, would this work with a credit card charge? Yes, we have it going both ways. So if you have a credit memo, you can also create an invoice from the credit memo, I believe is the way that works.
Oh, you talk about from a credit card charge? Let's do it from an expense transaction, which is sourcing from a credit card. The reversal for that would be a CC credit. Okay, it gives you the option for deposit, but that's going to be inaccurate anyway. But you can do a copy to CC credit, and it'll create a reversing entry for the CC credit. So the expense to CC credit is working well. It's just that specifically is the check and the deposit one. The check and the deposit ones, they're the ones we're still sort of working on, because it gets a little tricky. And again, we might pull those two, but that's what we have. And we're not going to consider, at least not yet, to do a journal entry as the reversal, just because it fundamentally changes how the transaction is, and checks can have items and expenses can have items.
Yeah, that's the weird part. We wanted to do something with journal entries, but for various reasons, it was just tough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we have a check, let's just grab a check here for a second. So let's say we're going to grab an actual check. This is probably one of the reasons to keep the check, is if you want to sort of manage a bounced check. The reversal of this would be a deposit for the same dollar amount. So naturally, this is pointing to uncategorized expense here. But naturally, if this was working in a perfect world, we would go to in this case, it should say copy to deposit. So that's something that we have to fix here. But we would add copy to deposit. Again, in a perfect world, we would copy to deposit, and then it would create a deposit to reverse it. So again, this is still experimental. We're showing you the experimental features live as we test them. Here you go. So let's go to copy to deposit. and then it should create a deposit with the same source account. I can't remember if that's the same source account. And then it should put the same category here. So like it's incomplete. The whole check to deposit to check, that part is still experimental. We'll figure it out if it's worth to continue to work on that part. But the invoice, credit memo, and bill credit, and voiding of the bills. Well, I almost forgot that one. Voiding of the bills are going to be the big ones when it comes to that. So when this graduates from the experimental feature, it'll be more clear to this what the scope of that is.
Yeah.
Last thing here is,
by the way, that when we put an experimental, that means you do have to turn this on. Once we do update it to be a non-experimental feature, it will be turned on by default. But for now, you do have to turn it on manually. I know some people are like, I like the fact that things are turned on by default. This is an ironic example of one that is not turned on by default. And
you have to be on Pro for the experimental, by the way. We have over 6,000 downloads in the Chrome store. So there's a lot of people using RightTool, which are extremely grateful for. But only the ones that actually pay are the ones that we're going to give them access to all this stuff. That way we can manage the feedback, because the feedback would just be unmanageable. We're a 2 or 3 person company at most. Okay. Last thing I want to show you on this same, it's bundled into the same feature, is the ability to void bills. So as you may know, there's no standard voiding mechanism for bills. You can either delete them or you can manually come in here and zero everything out. So essentially what we've done is we go to more and we go to void, and we do a simulation of a void. Again, there's no standard voiding system for bills, but when you click on void, you're going to get a warning here that says, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Then we click OK. And then 2 things are happening, something that's really important. One is all the amounts are being changed to 0. Everything else stays the same. And 2, the magical void memo automation pops in, whether or not you have that turned on. It will do that just because we need to add the word void sometime in the memo in order to do later in the future to search for quote unquote voided bills. Okay, and then you can just save that, and then you can move on with your voided bill. And I think that's it. We're going to leave it open for Q&A. I want to remind you that if you have copies of the slides, and I'll share that in the Zoom again, just in case, we have all of these all of these features have specific videos for each one, a little shorter, a little less conversational. And then we have a YouTube playlist for all the August features. And this is how we're going to do it now. Every time we release this, we're going to create a separate individual playlist for all the things we released on that particular month. So let's leave it open for Q&A. I'll ask you one more time in the chat, based on everything you've seen, what is your favorite new feature so far? The last time I asked, it was the Google memo. So is there, has any of the other things we showed you trump the Google memo, or which one's better? So now we got 1 vote for Google, 1 vote for transaction reversal, bank reconciliation search. Okay. Good. So now we have a mixture of things. So Google memo was like the top, and now we're getting a whole, we're almost getting a good combination of answers there. We'll save the chat after we're done, and we'll try to do a quick analysis at the end.
I do like Kelly Gibbs' answer, killing the modern view. I think that's one of those underrated ones that people are going to be like, oh, I forgot that was a thing that they put in. But
what did Kelly Gibbs say? What did you say?
Killing the
automatic classic view for reports. Is Mario here? Is Mario? Do you see Mario here? Mario Hernandez?
I don't know if I've seen him, but to be clear, I have a very short memory.
Yeah, so Mario is the one that pressed on the transaction reversal. So I want to give him credit for that. We actually had that in our list of priorities, our list of ideas, but it isn't until we get the actual feedback that we confirm, okay, that idea was worth looking at. Okay.
To be fair, the transaction reversal was a couple of different people who all had somewhat different things they were saying about what they wanted, and then it eventually clicked, and I was like, oh, I can actually do something here that people were wanting. So that's why it kind of came together eventually. So,
I do want to show you something. Okay, so you saw me fumble on bank feeds quite a bit with this thing reversing back to a random account. Okay, I want to show you a really fun little workaround that I found to potentially fix this problem. Not really a fix, but it's kind of a thing. So we're gonna use RightTool for this. So we're gonna turn on in QBO user experience. We're gonna turn on this thing called register, reconcile, useful links. Fun fact: that's probably the oldest feature of RightTool because it goes back to pre-RightTool. Mark, what was the very first feature that Monkbee had? Was it this one?
Honest to God, I don't remember. I know this was one of the Monkbee features. It was one of the older ones.
Right. So it's called register, reconcile, all useful links. And that one, Mark's original thing was that one should just be there. But we still made it a toggle because I'm a big fan of the toggles. When I was a kid, I was a fan of the cockpit on airplanes. And, like I was a kid in the 80s. So obviously the big thing was a 747. And the 747 cockpit was just a beautiful thing for a kid to look at. Like all these knobs and buttons and levers and colors, or like even the original Star Wars. Remember those planes had so many buttons and switches and stuff like that, which is funny to imagine a future with more buttons where really when you look at a Tesla, there's like almost no buttons. So anyway, long story short, I like having the toggles. I like feeling the control. I like customizing the experience. And that's something that we took very serious. So even that feature that I think is fundamental, which is this link here, is in there. But this is essentially the workaround for this problem. So if you go to the bank feed and then you see this back to banking, if you right click on that and click on copy link address, I'm going to paste it here up here. This is a direct address to the specific bank account in your bank feed. So long story short, we're going to copy that address here, and then we're going to click on add custom, and then we're going to put here Amex 1234 bank feed, and then we'll come in here and replace and override the URL, which is the one that I just copied, and then click on save. So now let's say I happen to be in, let's say in the cash flow screen, okay, and I want to go straight into that particular American Express. I can click on that link and boom, it'll take me straight there, and I don't have to now fumble across to try to find that particular account. So maybe Mark, maybe I didn't even show you this, but maybe this gives you inspiration to try to figure out how to like fix the underlying problem. But that's an interesting idea. So especially when you have I believe
there's
the
certain
group
things
favorites
that are hard to work on because of the fact that it feels like it's something that should be fixed soon anyways, which I mean, I say that and it's been a month and this has been bothering me for a month at this point. So maybe it's a thing where I should just fix it anyways, but that is what it comes down to, is that it's harder to work on features where it's like, I think this is going to be gone or obsolete in a couple of days. Where's one thing I wanted to mention real quick, just because I don't know how long this particular person has. Somebody was saying that they weren't seeing the new static header for the new button in the chart of accounts. We don't need to go there, to be clear. I was just going to say that if that ever happens and you have the feature turned on, which is in QBO user experience, chart of accounts header, what might happen is there are times when in a Chrome extension, it's being weird and it's just acting up on you, and you might need to do the reload the extension. So that is where you go up to the top where that little jigsaw puzzle piece is, and you can pin that. And then once you do, you can click on the little icon and reload extension. This is just something that happens sometimes. If something is not working for whatever reason and you expected to see it and it's not happening even when you refresh the page, then just try that out and it might help you. If it's still not working after that, let me know, like send me an email specifically. I will put it in the chat, but I just want to get that out there just in case they had to leave soon. Yeah.
So any other questions, any other things that were out there? Just we'll wrap it up in 6 minutes, so we'll do 90 minutes. That's my new thing. I do 90-minute webinars. I'm against 60-minute webinars. I don't work for the man. I don't have to do everything in 1 hour increments. So we'll stop at 90 minutes. I got 6 more minutes. Anybody else have any other questions? A couple of people are saying they feel that there's so many things that RightTool has that that
Oh
they
my God,
don't
we
know
didn't
that
actually
it's
go
there.
over the search feature, did
Yes,
we?
exactly. That was my segue. You messed me up from doing a beautiful segue. So we added this sort of sleeper feature that's like you can't toggle on and off. Where if you are in the in the in the in the right tool settings, it says search settings. So if you want to look for something that has like the word memo on it, so I just type memo and look. The interface right now for the search is a little tricky. Like it's sort of like there in the middle. It just feels like it's not in the right place. We'll work on that. We'll make that better, but it's functional. So if we type memo and click on search settings, it will change it to search up here in the top. And it will show me every feature that has the word memo, that has it on the name of the feature description, or like, for example, reclassify page extra filters. The word memo is not there, but if I click on the little I or the information, the word memo is in the description. So it searches both in the description and it searches in the name. And in parentheses, it tells you which section it is on if you want to go straight to that section and look at that. And remember, the ones that say pro are the ones that require the pro features. Okay. We have like 140 people still on, and we got 4 minutes, so I feel compelled to say something for the next 4 minutes. Mark, anything else? Okay, let's talk about where we're going to be in the next couple of months. So Mark and I are going to go to a conference in Chicago called what's it called? Bridging the Gap.
Yeah.
Bridging the Gap. Unique CPA. You're right. You know, when I type in a live video, it's almost like I'm drunk. So anyway, it's like generally I type okay. It's just like I'm a mess with that. So we're gonna go to this conference called Bridging the Gap. We're gonna be there end of August. Was it August 29 and 30? We're gonna have a little booth there. It's gonna be our first time together with a booth. Mark, I believe you were in another conference called BKX. Anybody here in this webinar was in BKX? Just wondering. Put it in the chat. I don't think anybody was. That's a different crowd. That's not like the QuickBooks crowd per se. It's more like any type of bookkeeping crowd. So we're gonna be at this conference. We're excited about it. It's pretty small. I think it's gonna have like 100 people, 120 people, but an excuse to get out of the house, I guess. And we'll talk. So we'll talk to some of the users, the RightTool users there in person. I'm also going to be in a conference called Miami TaxCon because it's in Miami, so it's called the Miami Tax Conference. It's a bilingual conference. It's pretty interesting. Half the track is in Spanish, half the track is in English. It's for tax preparers that speak Spanish, and I'm going to teach a particular piece, which is QuickBooks Online for tax preparers. So I'm teaching that in Miami. And I'm also going to be, of course, at my own conference, which is altaccountant.com/creative, which is creative business models for accountant. It's a conference that I put together. It's in Miami. I have my friend Ron, my friend Chris are going. My friend Vanessa's helping us with the coaching. I have a couple more coaches that we're working on. It's going to be like an incredible innovation workshop for accounting pros that want to sort of reinvent the practice. And we have 20 tickets left. So it's really cool. We're very close to selling out, which is super amazing. And that's going to be in October. And then finally, we're going to wrap things up with QuickBooks Connect. And that will be the last of my travels for the year. So we're going to be in Las Vegas. We're not going to have a booth in QuickBooks Connect, but we are going to wear a shirt. So we should be pretty easy to identify. And we're trying to possibly put together a get together. So we're going to find out if we can do like maybe like a beer and wine thing for an hour. Like we're a very small company. Like our monthly revenue is like $10,000. I mean, it barely pays a salary and some of the fundamental costs that it costs to run RightTool. So we can't throw like a big party. I'll tell you that much. But we're too small to have a booth long story short, we couldn't afford it anyway. It would have been too expensive. But Mark's going to be there. Our other partner, Patrick, who's sort of like our back end person, is going to be there. My wife, Andrea, who's not really actively in the design, but she helps me with some of the admin. She's going to be there. Jess, Mark's fiance, who, knowing her, she's probably going to be like answering all the RightTool questions for everybody. She's going to be there. So we're going to have a little RightTool team at QuickBooks Connect hanging around, which is going to be pretty neat. And we're working with one of the major sponsors who are actually going to give us space to hang out. So we'll have a specific place that we'll be in. We don't have a booth, we don't have a table, but we'll be there with our laptops and our shirts. And we just want to meet RightTool users and get direct feedback. It was really awesome. Last year where we had this little get together, we had like maybe 20, 25 people show up. I had just, the 1 week period from surgery had just so I could start talking again. And boy, did I talk a different problem altogether. But and then we got together with last year. Like, it's amazing. It's RightTool is almost a year old. The software was only about 3 months old, 2 months old at QuickBooks Connect, 3 months old, QuickBooks Connect. And we already had raving fans, 25 raving fans were just hanging out with us and giving us this incredible feedback. So like we're very excited about everything that we've done up to this point. RightTool seems, even though there's some bugs, and you saw us live showing the bugs, and we'll still get through them. But I think we've come a long way. We have 105 or 106 active features in RightTool. And I was just watching a video of the first video I made for YouTube, but we had like 6 features. So it's come a really long way. And I like to thank everybody that's come along the journey with us. Okay, so 90 minutes is up. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the September episode. One more thing. Please go to the Google Web Store. Okay, you can just go to this page right here. Go to the reviews and
you stopped sharing your screen right before you said that.
Yeah. You're right. If you have not yet done a review and you love RightTool, go to the Google Web Store where RightTool is. You can just Google RightTool and you'll find it. Click on reviews, go to write review. Tell us that you loved it, and then write whatever you feel about RightTool. Okay, so if you love it, if you haven't used it yet, don't put a review yet. But if you love it already, make sure that you put a review, and then let the world know that there was a pre-RightTool world and a post-RightTool world, and now your life is easier, you're more efficient, you're doing things a lot faster, and maybe you wish that everything that RightTool had was already built into QBO. I wish that too, honestly. We kind of built RightTool because we were like, hey, if we could redesign QBO within the limited parameters of what QBO is, what would that look like? And what you're seeing live is us manifest our wishes to like what the perfect QBO would look like or could look like. Anyway, thank you very much, and I'll see you guys on the September episode. Bye.